Hello and welcome to the Bald Watch Guy. Welcome to the place I normally edit, but today I messed up my audio during my walk, so I decided to do a sitting video for the first time in a long time. I've been contemplating this video for a while actually. I've been looking at my watch journey, looking at the mistakes I've made, listened to other collectors, and compiled a small list of mistakes of watches you shouldn't buy. Now, a lot of these things are personal, so it doesn't mean it's universal for every collector. I do believe everybody has their own journey and should do whatever they want without me judging it. If you like the watch, perfect. Quick wrist check. Today I'm wearing the Speedmaster. Now, I know I told a few videos ago I would give the Rolex Submariner a test, but same problem as usual. I always gravitate to the same pieces, and it's the Harrods and the Speedmaster in rotation at the moment, and especially the Moons watches. Guess we'll see what we have to do with the sub. Now, talking about Rolex, that brings us to the first point, and the first point is quite simple. Don't buy the Rolex you don't want. You know how it goes. You're looking on the Rolex catalog, you're looking on the website, and you're deciding, I want that Submariner, I want the GMT Master 2, or you want the Daytona. The problem is, in the end, a lot of the ADs or the boutiques are not going to offer you one in the beginning, unless you have a purchase history. Now, to get a purchase history, you need to buy other watches, and if it's a boutique only, they will try to shift you later. They just with a smooth bezel and an oyster bracelet might offer you a sub but and two-tone or full gold piece, and yeah, but a watch you don't really want. The problem with that is it has a negative connotation. You might decide to keep it, which is the best case scenario. In other cases, you decide to sell it. Problem is those pieces are hard to shift. Like the market for a two-tone Rolex sub is not the biggest compared to a steel one. You take a hit on your money. It's not an ideal situation, and my solution is quite simple. Go to an AD that has different brands. It also carries Omega, Rado, Tag, whatever you enjoy, and buy the watch first and build your purchase history up like that. And hopefully in a matter of time, maybe it's 1 year, maybe it's 2 years, maybe you get lucky and it's 3 to 6 months, you can finally get that piece. Or go to the gray market if you're so feel inclined. Now, I'm not going to be an advocate of gray market here. I'm also not against the gray market. I know a few good ones actually. Shout out to the House of Time in Brussels, or Nico Leonard. I'm moderating his Discord server, so I have to shout him out as well. And if that's the way you go for it. But there's one caveat though. If you're gonna buy another watch, for example, let's say an Omega or a Tag, and you walk in the boutique, make sure you get a discount, because you're gonna take a major hit the moment you buy it. Like those watches lose like 10, 20, 30%, maybe 40, depending on what model it is, on the secondary market. Now, it's not the only motivation, the financial aspect of watch collecting, but in my personal watch collecting journey, I prefer, if I don't like the watch anymore, at least I can get a lot of my money back, preferably. This is not an investment advice, but that's my reasoning in watch collecting. So it's important when you walk into the day, you at least get somewhat of a discount. And depending on the region you live, the discount can vary. Like I've asked a discount on the Speedy here in Belgium in a shop, and I better go get 10%. Now this was 2021, something like that, when the new Speedy released. And then I went to Spain and they offered me 33% in one go, which is quite a difference. So hold off, negotiate with your AD and see you get a good deal. Or for example, even for Breitling, they even have, for example, in Roermond a boutique where they do an outlet, and there's like standard 25-30% discount. Now, they don't have all the hot pieces, of course. They're trying to shift the stuff that didn't sell well or models that have been discontinued. But look, sometimes you can get a good deal. And the second option is look on Chrono24. Check watch charts. Sometimes you find amazing deals. Some people want to shift their pieces fast, especially the people who bought Rolexes they don't want. You might find a good deal. And another point for me is buying only mid-range and macro brands. Now, what I mean with mid-range, the definition can change person per person. I mean the watches between, let's say, 300 and 1500 bucks. I'm talking about Seiko Prospects, I'm talking about macro brand wise, I'm talking Baltic, I'm talking Lorier, I'm talking Studio Underdog. Now each of these brands has cool watches. I'm not gonna knock it. The problem is if you only keep on collecting those type of watches, you end up with a big collection with like 20, 30 pieces. Then you start calculating how much money you spend on those watches. And then you're starting to realize how many of those watches you actually wear. Now I made a mistake at the beginning of my career. I bought a watch like every 3 to 4 months, went from a cheap Casio to a cheap Tissot Quartz. I was really focused in the 300, 400 budget range. And then I decided I wanted something better, and then I had to shift a lot of the watches, which was problematic because I took such a major hit on it. Now I know people who have amazing big collections with those kind of things, and I'm not gonna knock people who are doing that. Like, more power to you. If that's your thing, go for it. But my advice is like, at some point, start to save up and buy that next level piece. And that next level piece doesn't have to mean it has to be a Rolex. It can be a Tudor, perfectly fine. And talking about Tudor, don't buy a replacement watch. Like, a lot of people I know, they want the Submariner, they don't have the funds, which is understandable. Those watches are crazy expensive now. It's 10K for a Submariner date these days. It's insane money. And they're looking for cheaper alternatives. And they're looking at a Blackbeard 41, which is inspired by the Submariner, of course. The problem there lays that it doesn't replace the watch. Now I have the luxury of owning both, and although I prefer the Tudor for different reasons, it's not the same build quality. It's not the same watch. At the end, there is a danger you might regret it in the end. So don't. And you can even go in a more extreme way. Look at Pagani Design. Like, Pagani Design makes basically homages, and that's even friendly. You would say it's basically clones, and okay, it's a fraction of the money, but it's not the same. You're buying the look, you're not buying the build quality, you're not buying the movement, you're not buying the history. So be careful what you're doing. Like, buy one or two, perfectly fine, but don't spend your whole budget on those kind of watches. It's a bad thing. Maybe a Moonswatch because I absolutely like him, but it's not replacing this. Absolutely not. And I know this because at one point I had the mission to the moon, and this one, why would I ever wear the moon? There was no reason to it. I was wearing a watch that was like completely worse, like plastic, shitty quartz movement, the whole shish kebang. It was not ideal. And that brings us from the Moonswatch to hype watches. And we've all fallen for that, and I've fallen for that. I fall for that with the Moonswatch. I fall for that with the PRX. And then I was like, oh, this watch is amazing. This will scratch my itch, and this will be the final piece. It's not the case. This is the disease called watch collecting. It never ends, unfortunately. There's never an end point. But going to the hype watches, you can also look at it. For example, the Patek Philippe Nautilus, amazing watch. But you can get disappointed in the end. Like, sometimes it's good never to meet your end piece. I had it with my Submariner. I love the watch. It's not what I expected it to be. I still wear it from time to time. But I put it in my head, like in my shiny bald head. Like, oh, this is the end piece. This is the goal. This is my personal hype watch. Or even when the market is dictating it, like articles from Hodinkee, for example, or the watch forum, seeing the new PRX and everybody, I want to buy a PRX, and at the end, you end up being disappointed. So my advice is quite simple. Hold off. Think about it. Like, when you see it, fine. Think about it. Look at the specs, see if it fits your wrist. Go to the AD, try it on, see if it's yours, and even then hold off, because sometimes you can get cooled off by it. It happened to me a few times with micro brands as well. I used to be a big fan of Baltic. Still a fan of Baltic, by the way. And I was in love with the MR01. I wanted to buy an MR01, and I'm part of a Discord from Nico Leonards, which has a very active VC, that was really like hyping up, I want to buy it. And in the end, I was looking more in it, and I was disappointed in certain features of the watch, especially the amount of money you paid for that kind of Chinese movement, even though it has a micro rotor. And one of the biggest downsides for me was the Harplex Hazelite crystal instead of a crystal. And I was like, nah, there's probably bigger bang for your buck out there that I can find. Now in the end, Maybe it will happen in the future, but I don't think so. It's in the back of my mind. Now I have a little bit of the same thing with Laurier, thanks to a fellow collector of mine who's like, he loves Lauriers, he collects all of them, he has the chance. And then I saw the crown, I was like, ooh, the crown is too big for me. Now I know it's a feature of them that's quite popular, and that's personal taste. Some people like the big crowns, some don't. And then we come to talk about fashion brands, and here I'm talking about Diesel, you know, the big disc around your hand where you can basically kill somebody with if you're hit them with it. I'm talking about Louis Jo, a little bit more local. I'm talking about ice watches. And this is actually a trap that a lot of people fall into when they don't know anything about watches. And if there's one thing I can tell people, don't buy those watches. And this is the only thing that's like a hard one for me. Because you pay a lot of money, for example, buy Tommy Hilfiger watch, they cost like 200, 300 bucks. You can get in very cool diamonds for that amount of money. Hey, you can get an intra-level Seiko, which is much more bang for your buck, with the exception of modern Seikos. Now, I hate modern Seikos. Yes, this is the hottest take I'm gonna give the whole video. Seiko is an amazing brand. Maybe it's not for me, although I recently purchased a Seiko 5 field watch for a friend of mine as a gift. She's on holiday right now in the Faroe Islands, so she needed a field watch, and I found one on an amazing discount for 180, a discontinued model, the SRPG 35K1. Cool field watch. I bought that one over other ones because it had water resistance, it had the lock, and it was a person who was scared of wearing a little bit more expensive watches, so it was a perfect sweet spot. But if I look at it at full price, it's 300 bucks. Not the most expensive watch, but you get, again, hard plex crystal, that's one. You get a movement that loses plus 40 seconds a day, so not the most accurate. Now it's reliable movement. Now, if you get ones on bracelets, you get a Holo Links, and then you look at the Presage, which has amazing, beautiful dials, but again, with a movement that's not the most ideal, which is kind of bad. So it's a hard time for me to recommend it on retail. But that's me. If you like Seikos, go for it. I know people who only collect Seikos, and they probably hate my guts for saying this, that I don't like Seiko, that I don't like Seiko 5s and modern Seikos. But I'm saying this because I see what microbrands are offering these days. And again, I'm talking about Laurier. I'm talking about Studio Underdog that makes crazy cool dials. I'm talking about Vario. There's so many to list, and actually I need to study more about microbrands, to be honest. Look at those watches and you get more bang for your buck. Anyways, this is the Bald Watch Guy in my favorite local pub, which I'm gonna promote one day if I get the honor, if he wants to at least. And have a nice day.